And hello, everyone. Welcome to RSP podcast with me, Raj and Palm. I'm here with Rodney Bursiel. How you doing, man? Wildlife
I'm doing pretty
photographer.
good yourself.
Thank you for coming on. I know you had a bit of a health scare recently.
Yeah, not too bad of a scare. I mean, it's the third time, so but
So,
this was the worst one. But yeah,
yeah. So I
I
guess
caught it early, so nothing life threatening.
that's good. At least you caught it early. But I suppose that must be a problem in your line of work. So you are a wildlife photographer. I mean, where do you specialize? Give us a bit of background about yourself.
Oh man, well it changes constantly. So yeah, but my dad was a scuba instructor, so I was born into it. He taught scuba, and photography for him was kind of a hobby. So I dabbled with it when starting around I guess 10 years old. And long story short, he sold the business around when I went to college, and we all kind of got out of scuba for a long time. And I got back into photography doing music stuff in the Austin area here in Texas. And after about 15 years of that, I was wanting to branch out and start doing some other things, and got back into travel and scuba and surfing. And and so yeah, I still do the music when I'm home, but well, of course, right now we're not traveling much, but before all this stuff hit, I
Yeah.
was traveling quite a bit. Just every trip I'd go on, I'd learn of something else. I'd go on great white sharks, and then I'd learn of humpbacks in Tonga, and then it just grew. So my bucket list is never ending.
Like I said, this is why I wanted to get you on because I just wanted to talk about some of your photos of some of the animal encounters you've had. It's just, like the one always want to discuss, the one I love is the one of the humpback whale, the flipped humpback whale. Um,
Yeah,
I just need all the story and the background and where was this whale? How is she doing now?
yeah. I don't have a report on how she's doing, but there is a group. It's called the Tong. I think it's either Tonga or Tongan Collective, I believe, and they track the whales. And I haven't looked on there, but yeah, the friend of mine that I went on that trip with, he runs that, so we could probably get on there and find out. But yeah, that was in Tonga. I guess it was 3 years ago. I went on a surf trip to Fiji with Donovan Frankenreiter. I was doing surf photography, and about a week before we were leaving, I found out I'd heard of Tonga, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know where it was, and I was literally like a week before we left. I learned that it was only about an hour and a half flight from Fiji. So I called the booking agent that booked all of our stuff, and I asked her. I said, how difficult would it be to redirect my flight through Tonga for a week? And she was able to reschedule it all for like $150 extra. So I was like, well, do it. And I literally went there with no agenda, nothing booked. And of course, everybody that, I talked to said, do not book that trip without having a schedule and having the proper guides. And, because there's some shady ones, but you want to get the better ones, and the ones that I guess that are focused on, working with photographers. Because you can get on, they over there, they only allow 4 people in the water at a time with a whale.
Oh no.
And, if you just jump over and get on one of these boats, you can be stuck on a boat with 12 people, and you're having to, cycle in and out, and you're
Yeah.
not getting any water time. But that first time I went, I lucked out and got in on a group that half of the group had to leave early. And when I say half the group, it was only, 4 people.
Mm.
And I got on the boat with one other person for a couple days, and to fill their spot. And that was my first experience with humpbacks like that in the water, and just total luck. but everybody's saying don't do it. Make sure you book it right. It's like, even a bad trip to Tonga is going to be better than coming home and sitting on the sofa. So
exactly. How many people have been to Tonga, right?
What's that?
How many people have been to Tonga, right? It's another story.
Yeah,
but,
not many.
Exactly. But are the whales, are they common around there, the humpbacks? Are they? Because I know.
Yeah, they're that. When is I guess the season there? I think it starts around July. I'm sure if anybody's listening to this and knows the stats, and if I'm wrong, they'll correct me. But I believe it starts in July and it goes through close to the end of the year, like October, November, I think. And yeah, it's a big area for birthing. It's a protected area, environmentally, it's a safe place for them to come and give birth. Yeah. And so, and then once the calves are born, they hang out there for, a few months to, let them grow and get their strength up to make the crossing to, wherever their next stop is.
I think
it's an area that's what Tonga's known for, is the humpbacks.
Yeah, and you actually got in the water with this one as well. So is this a young whale?
That photo is a calf. Yeah. But yeah, I said most of the encounters you get there are with the mom and calf, and of course the calves are the inquisitive ones that are coming up, and you just you get in the water and they'll come right up to you, and the moms will generally, if they're comfortable, if they don't want anything to do with you, they'll swim off. But most of them there are pretty chill, and they'll the moms will hang out at about 30 feet and come up occasionally for air, and then the babies, because the moms have to come up, I think it's every 20 minutes, and then the babies have got to come up like every 3 minutes, I believe. So they're constantly coming up for air, and when they do, they'll circle around and swim up to you and say hi. And
how close can you get to them?
Well, like I said, they'll swim. The calves will swim right up to you.
No way, that's amazing.
Yeah, you're literally, you can be arm's length from them. You don't approach them, but they will swim right up to you. And if, like I said, if the mom's comfortable, you don't get near as close to them, because it's more of a safety thing too, because those flippers are big.
I heard people who've been swimming with whale sharks, they say never go up and touch it because it's like swatting a mosquito to them. Is that they move their tail and bang, you're smashed. They don't even beat it.
Yeah, those fins are powerful. Yeah.
But I guess you just you just can't even comprehend the scale of them unless you've been in the water with them.
People ask me that all the time about how big are these things, and there's just no way to describe it. In fact, my very first encounter in Tonga, we got in, and they hover about 30 feet, and the mom will go down, the baby will go down and feed, and most times, and in this instance, the baby will start when they come up together. The baby will start surfacing, and then mom will come up behind it. And when you're over there, when you're looking and trying, you can kind of see the silhouette of them, and then you see the baby coming up, and you're just like, oh my God, that thing is huge. Yeah. And like a baby is about the size of an orca, a killer whale.
Yeah.
And you're just going, oh my God, this thing's enormous. And then the mom comes up, and you're just going, oh my God. Yeah, they're just, you can't, they're just, you just have to see it. There's no describing it.
It's something like out of Jurassic Park, isn't it? Like just watching them. And I've been lucky enough to see blue whales off the coast of Sri Lanka, but unfortunately the sea was too rough and I couldn't get in with them. But they're the whales in particular, they're such special animals. There's really is the way. You must have heard them, particularly the humpbacks, them singing as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's, of course you can hear them from miles away, and then when you've got the ones that when you get right on them, your chest is just vibrating. It's a surreal experience. Um,
I can imagine, and I mean this thing with their communication that a lot of scientists they're kind of saying now that I mean I think they particularly think it more in killer whales, orcas, and dolphins, but they think that because of that, I mean obviously because of the whale's physiology, it can't communicate with us, but it has the brain capacity that I mean I don't know, it could maybe like a chimp learn sign language or something, that they think that they actually have that capacity, is that they're so smart and they're so clever, and this communication is something that is actually ingrained in them.
yeah, it seems like I read a study about that not too long ago. There was a scientist that was actually trying to, learn their song and communicate with them. Who really knows what we're doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's reference point. I mean, it's that famous philosophical saying, isn't it? If a lion could speak English, we wouldn't understand it. It's because
yeah.
it's reference points, and the world it lives in is just so different from ours.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you have more experience with whales?
They, yeah, well, no, I take that back. Yeah, actually, like I said, when I got out of scuba, got over 20 years ago, and I got back in about 5 years ago, I guess. And my first trip was to Guadalupe Island with great whites,
Oh,
and I was on the Solmar, and it was on that trip because that same boat goes to the Socorro Islands, which is also an island. They're both islands off of Mexico, and so that's where I learned about the Socorros. And so the next trip I booked was out there, and that was there's always whales out there, but it's kind of hit or miss if you're gonna have an experience. Like in Tonga, if you go out at 6 in the morning, and it may not be till 3 in the afternoon that you come across one, but you're gonna find them.
yeah.
And out there, I guess, I don't know if it's just because they're more skittish or what, but it's not a guaranteed experience. But when we got there, or as soon as first thing, it was a mom and an escort and her baby, and the dive master recognized her
Are these
from,
humpback whales?
yeah, humpbacks.
Yeah.
And yeah, our dive master remembered her from 2 years ago, and she was just super calm, super chill, and literally just sat there all day long with baby just diving down, coming up, and her escort was a little bit deeper, and he just sat there the whole time. And we had literally a day and a half of just about nothing but with these whales. And we go down diving with them, and then run out of air and throw our tanks in the boat, and then just sit there with our snorkels.
Wow.
And we had it was about halfway through our second day there, and we were taking the Ponga back to the main boat, and I was literally stepping up on the boat, and I heard all this thrashing and fins, and I looked back, and all I saw were whale fins. And it's like, what the hell was this? What's going on? And then you saw the dorsal fin of the killer whale.
Oh
And
no.
so we all jumped back in the boat and went back out, and two transient orcas had come in and separated the baby, and of course killed it and ate it. And we witnessed the whole thing. And after they had finished, then of course all the sharks came in. And it was this was literally my first dive after not diving for 20 years. To be with humpbacks and orcas and silkies, and
Yeah.
just,
I mean,
and growing up,
kicking off in the water below you. Oh, that's so sad. That's so. I
yeah,
mean,
it was heartbreaking. And it pretty much rewrote my DNA that day. And in fact, when we when we got back, we the boat left out of Cabo, which of course is a big party town in Mexico, and we came into dock that the night of the Super Bowl. So there's just parties everywhere, and I couldn't even get off the boat. I didn't even want to. I wasn't ready to be around humans yet. 'Cause it was
I can't blame you. I mean, to see something like that is so savage. And I mean, and I suppose for people who are a bit like, who are like, what, killer whales came and ate a whale, is that's what they do. That's where they get their name. They are
exactly.
they are killer whales. They come and they
Yeah.
eat whales. I mean, they eat sharks. I mean, these guys are the top predators.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Oh,
you must know South Africa at the moment. The problem is that the orcas are coming in and just killing the great white population.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah.
there's sharks washing up, and they've got their liver removed because that's how the killer whales come and take the liver, and they're washing up on the beaches non-stop now.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hadn't heard that. I didn't know it was so bad.
Yeah, it's getting quite common, and there's also, these are also fascinating animals as well because their level of communication and their intelligence is meant to be as well very, very high for such an animal.
Well,
And
the way they communicate, and they work together as a team to kill.
yeah. And I mean, and as well, like, I mean, they never move away from their families, and it's
Yeah.
really interesting how they have their dietary requirements as well. Like some only eat sea mammals and others only eat fish.
Yeah, I think there's 6 different species of orcas,
Mhm.
and they've all got very specific diets.
But there's a pod, I think it's off Seattle in Washington, and they only eat this specific type of salmon. It's like the Pacific Rim
Yeah.
salmon or something. Do you
Yeah.
this pod? And now that salmon's running low, and they won't eat anything else, and they're starving, and they're watching other killer whales come through, but they won't do it. They won't eat mammals, and
Yeah.
it's really strange.
Yeah, they're endangered because of their food source is dwindling, and yeah, they don't eat anything else. So,
Yeah, scientists are trying to get them to eat seals, and yeah, they just won't do it. It's so interesting.
yeah.
But going back to where you were off of Mexico. So you were saying you also work a lot with great whites, correct? And that's off the coast of Mexico is where a hot spot for great whites.
Yeah, Guadalupe Island. It's an old volcano that collapsed. God knows, I have no idea how long ago it was, but yeah, it is. Then there's a colony of seals there, so they come in to feed, and there's all kind of theories, other than the food sources, why they come there, but it's one of, if not the best place in the world to see great whites, because it's crystal clear water, and again it's like the humpbacks in Tonga. You're pretty much guaranteed an experience with them.
Mm.
And
And you,
I've been, I guess I've been 4 times now, and I remember the first time I went, I was thinking this will just be a one-off trip. How once you've done it, and I'd met people that have done this 15, 20 times, and I'm thinking, how do you do this same trip over and over and over? And after the first trip, I was hooked, and now I get it. And it's amazing how different every experience is, because of course every shark has got a different personality. And you go earlier in the season because the males tend to show up first, and they're the smaller sharks, and then you come later, but they're the more aggressive ones. They're more active. And later in the season, the females start to show up, and they're bigger, but they're a little more chill. So it just depends on what you're looking for. But a 14-foot great white shark is still a pretty big shark.
yeah,
But
I mean, that's an understatement. 14 foot is, that's double me and some.
yeah, but they like Deep Blue, who has been seen out there. It's a female that she makes an appearance from time to time, and they've estimated her at 20 or 21 feet.
I was
So
I was literally just about to bring her up because I saw a video of her earlier, and I've just found that video again. Yeah, she was 10 foot wide and 20 foot long, correct?
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
that's what that's
I,
I mean, that's 6 foot above your average shark, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And I couldn't imagine being face to face with something that big. And yeah, but I just I keep. In fact, I was supposed to be going back this year, and I'm still got my fingers crossed that
Yeah.
things turn around and we're able to travel. But I was supposed to be going back in October, and yeah, hoping that she'll show up one of these times. So
Yeah. Yeah, man, I hope so. I mean, I've got this video up here and I'll send it to you. This woman, she's free diving with her. She's
is
touching
that
fins and everything. I mean, she's got some serious.
That Ocean Ramsey?
I don't know. It's literally just got the video of a woman in a dive suit swimming with her.
Yeah, it's probably Ocean. My last trip out there was she was on our trip with us. So
Ah, okay, all right.
yeah, she lives in Hawaii, and that's yeah, she's a huge shark conservationist. And yeah, in fact, I guess it was last summer. There was I believe it was a whale. I don't know if it was a humpback or what it was, but there was a carcass out in the middle of the ocean, and of course all the sharks came in, and I think there were a couple of them that were 20 in the 20-foot range, and they thought it was deep blue at first, but then discovered that it ended up being another one.
I mean, how do they get so big? 20.
Well, they keep growing. If they're one of the lucky ones to survive humans, they'll get that big. But just now they're being slaughtered left and right, and
Mm.
it's not that common to see them that big. If we leave them alone, there'd be a lot more bigger ones.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a shame as well because I mean, all of these animals that you photograph and you spend your time with, they're such amazing creatures. I mean, obviously, we were just saying, I've just seen a video of a woman swimming with a 20-foot great white shark. Most people are
Mhm.
so terrified of these animals and they want to kill them, but I could never understand why you'd want to kill such an amazing animal, the perfect predator in a way, in its surroundings as well.
Yeah, and of course, and they're vitally important. We need them, and if they're if they're all gone, the oceans will be changed drastically. They're kind of they keep the oceans clean and in balance, and if they're gone, it's things are gonna go way out of balance.
Yeah. I mean, what are shark populations looking like? I think that I mean, is there any increase or is this just still decreasing at the moment, year by year?
I haven't heard statistics lately. I know that because with shark finning, I know that's still it's still a
Mm.
major problem. They've made some headway with educating people on that, but they just had a huge shark fin seizure in I, I think it had made it to China, but I forget how many sharks they had estimated were in shipment, and it was strictly fins. They're pulling all these sharks out of the ocean, and cutting their fins off and just throwing them back in the water, because the fins are so valuable, and it's just a worthless piece of cartilage. It's got no nutritional value whatsoever, but they're convinced it does. So, but
Yeah.
I would be surprised if the populations are going up. I have read that like the humpbacks have started to increase,
Mm.
but I very seriously doubt that shark populations are increasing.
I mean, what can be done to, I mean, if anything, I mean, with shark conservation and things like that, it's a bit harder because it's not like they're intruding on human habitat. It's they're us going out and finding them, and the sea's so big. What can be done to stop or at least help?
Well, it's education.
Mm.
That's the main thing. It just I still see people people that I know personally, going out, fishing with the intent of catching a shark. And I'm the only person that'll make, of my, in my circle, I guess, other than my dive friends, but like, that if I make a, and I try not to get, political or attack or, but to educate them on why that's not what you should be doing. But it just, everybody's like, oh wow, that's cool, that's amazing, and I'm just like, no, it's not cool and it's not amazing. It's like when I go to Bimini, there's, you can free dive with the great hammerheads there, and the place that we stay, it's a fishing resort, and there's, in the summer there's 50 fishing boats there and one dive boat, and all these boats are heading out with 50 poles hanging off the back of it, and they're all these trying to catch sharks. I was like, if you really want to experience it, come get in the water with them.
Yeah, see them in their own environment.
Yeah, they all want the photo, holding the mouth open. I'm like, show me what you got. Come get in the water.
Yeah, yeah, hunt something that will hunt you back.
Yeah.
But I mean, do these people, do they just want it for the trophy? Or, like, I mean, do they hang it on their wall or whatever, or is it just they throw it back when it's
the sport fishing? I think most of them are releasing, but even that, it's just I've never been on a dive with sharks where I didn't see one that had a giant hook in its mouth, if not not more than one, a fishing line hanging off of it, and like hammerheads. The hammerheads put up such a fight that they get so much acid built up in their system that even if you cut line after you fought them, they're 90 something % of the time they're going to swim off and die. They don't survive. That's the other, you talk to a fisherman, it's like, well, we released it, and it's like, you still killed it.
Yeah. Oh, that's so, yeah. I mean, that's so sad. I suppose, and I mean, I suppose fishing is, especially deep sea fishing, is such a big thing in culture now. Like, people love the ability to deep sea fish. It must be so hard to limit what sort of thing you can catch in a way. Like, it's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, and they've got all these, I say laws, but if they're not enforced, is it really a law? But they're, and of course it's all different depending on where you are. But in some areas, if you catch a shark, you're supposed to cut line as soon as first thing. But these people are still reeling them in, and because they all want that photo holding the mouth open.
Yeah.
And which I guess I get it, but if they just knew what they were actually doing, they might, you're not going to change everybody's mind, but you might change some of them. But there's I mean, and there's plenty of fishermen out there that they've just got this thing against sharks. They just want to catch them and kill them. Because it's they're so dangerous. They watch Jaws one too many times. So.
Yeah. It's idiots, isn't it? But I mean, as well, I think is that people they kind of have this thing is that they don't feel as bad about harming the sea. Do you know what I mean? They don't feel as bad as about harming the wildlife in the sea as they would on land. They don't kind of appreciate the delicate ecosystem that the ocean is.
Oh yeah, and they're again, they're not divers, and they're not down, and they're not under there seeing what's actually going on. I think if a lot of these people, if you could get them into scuba diving and actually experience these creatures face to face and see them interact and see that that it is a living thing, they might, some of them might change their mind. But yeah, I can't fathom it. And there was I did a social media post several years ago, and I made some comment about deep sea fishing and, how much I disliked it. And, this guy chimed in and is like, well, I don't like catching sharks either, but sometimes that's going to happen. And I said, well, proving my point again. It's why I hate deep sea fishing, because that happens. So it's.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, that's a very fair point. Hello, you're still there? Is that a connection
Yeah.
break?
Yeah.
No, so I thought there was a little. I think there was a little connection break on my end. Yeah, no, I think that is a very good point, and I suppose I do see the point that there is collateral damage, but it needs to be. I mean, I suppose maybe there needs to be restrictions in areas where people can fish. If people know that great whites and hammerheads congregate in a certain area, then you just can't fish within 50 miles of that area.
Yeah, and there are plenty of places that have that, but it's not enforced is the problem.
And I suppose maybe just more money needs to go into that sort of conservation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are places. In fact, what is it? What's the area called? I'm drawing a total blank right now. But down I guess it's in Sea of Cortez. There's an area that has been designated a preserve, and I think they said it was like 10 years that the fish populations had increased over 400%.
Wow, that's unbelievable numbers.
So things can turn around real fast, but we've got to let it. And and that's kind of what I've actually been one of the the bonus or the pluses, I guess, with this whole coronavirus is seeing the areas that are that are getting a break from humans for a little bit. It's seeing pollution going down, and the wildlife not being harassed, and so.
Yeah, no, this is actually a very good point. I was going to bring it up because I'm going to assume this is because there's less boats in the ocean, but now I think twice orcas have been spotted back off the coast of the UK. Twice
Really?
now. Two separate occasions, I believe, on the east and west coast, I believe. So, I mean, they look like they're. I mean, it'd be great to see them coming back. I mean, they're scary, but it'd be great to have them coming back.
Well, but orcas, there's not a single case of an orca killing a human being in the wild.
Yeah, no, I know this is incredible. I mean, there's been the stories of them in captivity, ones that have been kept in sea life, but I mean, I can't imagine the trauma that those whales have gone through.
Oh yeah, they're so drugged up and depressed, and because they're just swimming in circles their whole life.
And I mean, as well, I mean, a lot of them probably have traumatic memories of being taken away from their families as well.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So I mean, I mean, you can't keep a whale in a cage.
No.
But I suppose, I mean, going on to conservation, I mean, keeping on the conservation, I suppose it's more important in any other place than in Africa, which I wanted to talk to you about your experiences traveling in Africa.
Oh my God, yeah, that was next to the Socorro with the orca and humpback. Yeah, Africa was it was just another life-changing moment.
So where have you worked in Africa? What areas?
Well, I went in November. I went this past November for 5 weeks, and it was my first time. And I started in Tanzania. We did the Serengeti, and then went over to Kenya, and I guess we did Serengeti for 10 days, and then went to Kenya and did Amboseli and Chulu Hills, and then went up to Samburu, and that was all another 10 days, and then went over to Ethiopia and did Omo Valley with we saw, I guess, about 6 different tribes there.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so Tanzania, Kenya, and Ethiopia, and it was just the most amazing experience of my life. Most trips that I go on are usually 10 days, 2 weeks max, before I, come home and check on things and do edits and send things out. And I had never gone, for 5 weeks. And I was like, how is this going to pan out? Being away from home for that long. And, because usually when you go somewhere, towards the end of the trip, you're kind of antsy and ready to get back and check on things. But, but as soon as you get home, then you're ready to take off again. This trip, I just, after 5 weeks, I didn't want to come back. It was, those moments with, because my main intention was the elephants. I mean, that's all I really wanted to do. And, all the cats and the giraffes and hippos and whatever. I was like, I was excited to see that, but it just wasn't grabbing me like I thought the elephants were going to do. But you get there and just everything just steals your heart. I mean, every freaking animal, like the big cats, I was like, of course I wanted to see lions and cheetahs and leopards. But I was like, no, it wasn't my thing. But the first time you see them, it just completely changes. And you fall in love with every single animal over there.
It sounds like a wildlife lover's dream, and I know what you mean. I mean, there is something about seeing animals in the wild, in their natural habitat, which is unexplainable. It's amazing. And
it's like you're asking, the size of humpbacks. It just you can't explain any of it. It's something that you just have to go experience it. And and just the elephants, the different personalities. And if you've got a big bull that's in full must, that's trying to protect his love interests, he could get upset and charge the van. But then you get the one that you're sitting there and they'll just walk right up and stare at you. So it's you never know what you're gonna get.
This is so true. And I mean, I'm looking at this photo now of this big bull that you sent me with his tusks going down to the ground, and he's just so strong and impressive.
That was one of my biggest lessons in life and photography and many things. But the big tuskers there's literally about a dozen of them left, because they've all been hunted and for their tusk. And of course these big tusks, those tusks on those big ones are 100 pounds a piece, and worth God knows how much kind of money.
A lot of money on the black market.
Yeah. And they're the big tuskers that are left. Of course, they're all named and tracked and followed to protect them. And in Bursiel, where we were, is the home to Tim and Craig. That the photo I sent you, that's Craig. And we got there, and like I said, they keep an eye out on them, and the guides will radio back and forth, keeping tabs on them. And when we got there, we had asked, and they work with the Maasai there also, and they had spotted Craig, and he was outside the park in Maasai land. And so we went and picked up this Maasai, and he took us right to where Craig was. And Craig's 50, 51, 52 years old, and just super chill. And it's kind of like the humpbacks. You get those that'll just hang out and let you sit and watch them, and the others will don't want anything to do with you, and they'll take off. But Craig is just super chill. We got to hang out with him for about 30-45 minutes, and we were heading back to, or actually we got back to camp, and they had just gotten a call that they had spotted Tim. And Tim he is, estimated to be the largest land mammal in the world. He's bigger.
Really?
not much bigger than Craig, but he was bigger than Craig. And they had spotted him, but he was like an hour away, and it was getting, it was starting to get dark. And if we had found him right away, we probably would have had 10 minutes with him before it was too dark to get any photos. So I asked him, I said, well, is he going to be there tomorrow? How much are these guys roaming? Do we take our chances? And like, yeah, but I said, yeah, he'll more than likely be there. We'll just get up first thing in the morning and we'll go. So we got up super early, drove over there. We got to the park where he was, and he just left the park into an area where we couldn't access.
No way, really? Oh, that's such a shame. Maybe, yeah, the thing is, you could even know is that he could have known you were coming in some way.
Who knows what they know? But the heartbreaker was this whole deal. After this trip, we never found him, and I was, well, I'm just going to go back in the fall, and I'm just going to go back to Amboseli, and I'm just going to camp there for 2 weeks, and that's all I'm going to do is look for Tim.
Yeah.
And it was I'd been home, I guess, a couple months, and I woke up one morning and turned on my phone, and first thing I saw was a notice that they had found Tim dead, and he had passed away of natural causes. I mean, thank God it wasn't from poaching. But it was heartbreaking. This elephant that I never even got to meet, and it just, I still think about it all the time.
That is sad. That is really sad. It's also incredible that he died of natural causes. How old was he? Do you know?
He was in his 50s. Yeah.
50s. That's a solid life for an elephant, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they can, they can live in, up to 60, 70 years old. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that, because when we were there, they had crazy rains, and we were supposed to be there, it was kind of supposed to be towards the end of the dry season, which is what I wanted, photographically. But they had all these crazy rains that came in early, and everything was just super lush, and the elephants were just gorging themselves. And I heard that he had eaten so much that he had gotten a twisted gut, and that's what killed him.
Oh, that's such a shame.
Yeah.
But I suppose.
But Craig is but the good news of that story is, Tim had a son that they had named Ulysses, and he's a big tusker also. And again, I don't know the whole story or all the facts, but he had left the area several years ago, and they hadn't seen him in years. And the day after Tim died, he showed up.
Wow. Well, this is also something as well, is that I've been reading a book, and I've watched a documentary by Levison Wood. He follows the elephant migration across Botswana through the Bango Delta, and he was saying this way that they have about them is that the sense of family and friendship is not like anything else in other animals. Sorry, the way that feel this loss, like it really affects the whole group for days. And the males, they kind of have like drinking buddies where every year they meet at the same watering hole and they go for a drink and they just kind of shoot the shit with each other.
Yeah, and that's what Tim and Craig were. They were drinking buddies. You'd see them together quite a bit, and they'd split ways and come back together. And but it was like somehow, however they communicate, word had gotten to Ulysses, and it's like he came back to mourn.
Yeah. Do we know how far he came from?
No, I haven't heard. Like I said, I'm looking forward to getting back over there, and I'm hoping he stays in the area.
Yeah.
Meet him, but I will hopefully learn all that when I get back, whenever that may be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really interested to how that he would have known. Like, I know that in elephant groups that they send like the younger males to go like scout an area. Like, so I mean, did you hear of the story in South Sudan when the civil war broke out, all the elephants left, and then about 4 or 5 days later, or 4 or 5 days after the war ended, years later, they came back.
No, I haven't heard
No,
that story, but
yeah,
that
this is
doesn't
a true
surprise me.
story. Yeah, the elephant population in South Sudan, they seemed to know when the war started and ended, and they moved and came back accordingly.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's something about these animals that they must have some sort of courier system or something.
Well, I again, this is a book that I haven't read it yet. So again, I don't know the whole story, but the book it's called The Elephant Whisperer,
Hmm.
and the what I've heard about it was there's this I guess there was a herd of elephants that they were trying to save or protect, and they were trying to find a preserve where they could go and be to be safe. And this guy, um, they had approached him, and I guess at first he was like he couldn't do it, but then there was nowhere else for him to go, so he took these elephants on and raised them. And then he passed away a few years ago, and now every year on the day that he died, the elephants come to his home.
That's unbelievable. That's an
Yeah.
unbelievable because even it's just how do they measure the time?
Exactly.
How do they measure the time and the date? You know, if you put a person in a for example in a prison cell without a clock, they can't even count the hours.
No,
How do
no.
they do it? How do
Uh,
they do it?
yeah, and they say that humans are the superior species, but
Yeah,
I beg to
exactly. Well, I
differ.
mean, I mean, if they learn how to sort of, well, they do, don't they? They know how to chuck rocks and things. They know how to use their
Hmm.
weaponry. If they sort of all united, they could probably take over the world if they wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
But oh man, incredible species, and that's incredible experiences that you've had with them. I mean, also want to talk to you more about your big cats as well, because like you say, I was meant to be in Africa. I was meant to be in Rwanda and the Congo with the
Hmm.
gorillas and big cats in
Yeah.
April doing some filming, but unfortunately it all fell through. But can I hear about some of your lion experiences? Because these elephants, lions, those are my two big ones in Africa.
Yeah,
And
I guess
gorillas,
my
actually.
my I guess to back up for a second, when all this does come back around, and if you go over there, let me know because I'll join you. I've been wanting to do that trip,
Oh, really?
but
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I have a tour
I
operator who should be able to get us into Congo, so that's no problem.
yeah, that's high on my bucket
Yeah.
list. So
All right, cool. I'm trying to get into photography as well, so it'd be nice to learn from you. So I'll
there
keep you
there there
updated
you
there.
go.
Well, I'll
We'll
keep
do
you
it.
updated there. That's perfect.
Perfect.
But yeah, sorry, go on. Go back to your lion experiences.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a, that story that,
Mm, yeah.
that's, just amazing. But again, it's just that, being in their presence. And actually, I take that back. I do have a good story. we,
I'm thinking there's never a dull moment with lions involved.
yeah, well,
Never.
but most of the time, because lions, they're mostly sleeping.
Yeah, that's
They
true, actually.
if
Yeah, yeah,
if they're not hunting, they're sleeping, and 80% of the time they're sleeping.
yeah.
But and I always butcher it, but it's the Ngorongoro crater. It's the I think it's the oldest volcano that I think it was like 2.5, 3 million years ago.
Mm.
When it erupted, it collapsed on itself, and now they call it the Garden of Eden of Africa, and
Where is this? Sorry?
it's in Kenya.
It's in Kenya. Okay.
And no, I'm sorry, it's Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Yeah,
Tanzania.
and but it's like it's just it's this wildlife preserve that's inside this dead volcano that collapsed on itself, and just throughout every animal is in there except for giraffes because they can't get down the embankment. It's too steep for them to get in. But there, in fact, I just read the other day, I think they said there's 7 different prides of lions in there.
So how many animals are we looking at? Maybe what, 40, 50 animals?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, well, like we came across one pride, and it had 8 in the pride. It was 4 males and 4 females, and it was so crazy because we were literally just out in the middle on the floor where, you know, there's no trees, there's no nothing, but there was this little ravine. Then, but there were these 4 females just laying out in the field, out in the blazing sun, all by themselves. And we drove up on them. You know, we sat there with them for a little bit, and of course they're just laying there. So you're like, oh, okay, let's go find something else.
Yeah.
And when we're driving off, we had the most amazing guide. He was Maasai, and, you know, grew up in all that. So he knows what every animal's going to do, when it's going to do it. And when we were driving off, we drove past this little ravine, and he said, the males are down in there. And we're like, how do you know that? He's like, that's just where they are. You know, it's just, that's what I, you know, because I said so. That's where they are. You know.
Yeah.
But we drove off, and about 5 minutes later, we got a call on the radio from one of the other trucks, and they said, hey, the males just came out. And they walked up to the females and got them, and they start walking down through this field, and we're kind of we're keeping pace with them for a little bit. There are a bunch of other trucks, you know, everybody doing the same thing. And you know, by the time all the word had gotten around on the radio, everybody had congregated on this. And then our guy just takes off, and I'm like, where are you going? And everybody else is just, you know, just kind of trailing these lions. It's like, he said, I know where they're going. So we go over to this little watering hole, and we're sitting there all by ourselves. And there's a family of warthogs playing in the water. And we're sitting there watching them. And sure enough, the females come up, because the females are the primary hunters. The males, you know, the males, you know, the women do all the work.
Yeah, the women do all the work. Yeah.
But
the male, you were saying that like most of the time, 80% of the time they're sleeping. I'd say the male's sleeping like 90% of the time, aren't they?
Yeah, and the females will kill, and then the males get first dibs on the food, and if there's anything left over, then the females get what's left.
Cubs, right?
But yeah, there weren't any cubs on this one, but yeah, we're sitting in this little watering hole. And sure enough, the lions come right towards it, and you could see the moment when they smell the warthogs. And the 4 females, you can see them communicating. You know, they're twitching ears, and they circle this watering hole, and they wait for every one of them to get in position. And it's like okay, go, and they just, it was precision artwork how they teamed up and, you know, took down this warthog, and then and killed it, and then the males came in and, you know, had their meal.
Yeah, I can only describe it from seeing it in documentaries, but it's like aircraft formation, isn't it? The way they just sink into the grass and you don't see them. I've seen a tiger hunting in the wild in India. She missed, fortunately and unfortunately. It would have been cool to see, but probably it would have been horrible as well.
But you know what's crazy? You know, when you're a kid growing up and you're watching all these and you're always rooting for the other animal.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you want them to escape.
Yeah.
But when you're there and you're witnessing it, I mean, you actually, I mean, at least this is how it was for me. And, you know, I'm rooting for the cats.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's their meal. You know, that's, you know, if they don't eat, then they're gonna die.
Exactly. And
just, yeah, your heart is beating a million miles an hour. It feels like it's gonna bust out of its chest, because just there's so much energy and action, and it was insane watching that.
And I mean, I can imagine it's the same with lions as well, but it's the same with tigers. It's just the power in the spring where they just suddenly it snaps and they just run, and it's unbelievable to watch.
So we had we didn't witness the kill, but we came up on a leopard that had drug a wildebeest up into the tree. Wildebeest aren't small animals.
Big animal. I mean, they're big animals. Yeah.
They're approaching the size of a horse, and the leopards, they'll drag them up in there.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. How big was the tree? Like to hold a wildebeest.
It was a. I mean, I can send you a photo when we.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they're big trees. It's like like the size of a like an oak tree kind of thing. I don't remember what specifically these were.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're large trees. The big branch. There's plenty of they'll go and just hang them off of a branch and they'll sit up there and feed off of them for days.
Yeah, I think it's safer because they can't fight. I mean, they can't fight off the lions in just terms of pure strength. And then
it's more the hyenas.
Yeah, because they come in. I mean, a pack of hyenas could take down one lion easy, but I mean, a leopard's smaller and slimmer than hyenas. It stand no chance.
Yeah, you get a pack of 20 hyenas on one lion, and the lion's not going to make it.
Yeah,
I was reading that the other day. They said that when lions kill, it's obviously for food, but hyenas are the only thing that lions will kill just to kill them.
Yeah, because they really go to wars. I mean, I think it was on Planet Earth 2. Did you see it where the pack of hyenas cornered the lion, the young male lion?
No, I haven't seen that one, but
I'll send that to you as well. This pack of hyenas corners this like male lion, 2-3 years old, and he looks really done for because they keep just running at him at different angles, and then suddenly his brother comes in, and then you see all the hyenas like make their weird high pitched scream and they run for the hills.
Okay, that's probably I've seen footage like it may be the same thing.
Yeah,
I've seen footage recently where the one lion was about to get it, and then the pride came in and ran off the hyenas. But the hyenas are the one I just I can't stand those things.
Really, yeah, they are terrifying. I remember when I was in Jordan, you could sometimes hear them like screaming at night because you do get hyena in Jordan, and you could hear something, and it is like they're screaming. It's a horrible noise, isn't it? And they're freaky little beasts.
Yeah, and it's the only creature that even the babies aren't cute.
Yeah, no, that's true. They are.
Anything that's a baby is cute, but hyenas, even the babies, like I can't. It's the only animal in this world that I just can't stand.
I think they never stood a chance after Lion King as well. I think the poor bastards just never stood a chance after that. You can never make the hyenas good after that. But I suppose there's one more photo I want to talk about, and then I want to discuss some of the people you actually met in Africa because you sound like you have fond memories of them. But the picture I want to know about is the crocodile. How did you get that? Because you're face to face with that guy, and he's got his mouth open.
Yeah, that was in Cuba, and it was kind of funny because we got there. It's in the mangroves, and they've been doing it for a while, so they're accustomed to people. And but when we got there, we pull in, and our guide asked us, well, who wants to go first? Well, I'll go, but I'm expecting some huge safety meeting, and like, well, what do we do? And he's like, you get in. I was like, Okay. So I'm like, if you're not worried about it, then I'm not either. So
Because
yeah,
I am right thinking that they don't attack you under the water, right? They can't attack you under the water. They have to get you to the surface to attack you.
that's what I've heard.
Yes, I wouldn't take
And of
that.
course,
Like,
yeah, and they, these guys, these aren't big. I mean, they're still, 5 or 6 feet.
are
And
these
if,
American?
if they wanted to do some damage, they could, but they're not the huge crocs, but which I have swam with those too, but there's a little more safety protocol with those. That's down in Mexico.
Is
But
this an American croc? Sorry to interrupt.
what's that?
Is this an American crocodile?
Yeah, the ones in Cuba are American.
American crocodile. So this is
Yeah,
like kind of like the third smallest species of crocodile, correct?
yeah,
After
yeah. So
saltwater and
they're
Nile. So this
not,
can
yeah,
get
they're
big.
not huge,
Yeah.
but yeah, you get in the water, and of course, they react to sound, and like there's new not of I think they're called hoodia. They're kind of like a nutria, like just a giant rat kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those things, they'll climb around in the mangroves, and they'll fall off, and they'll hear them splash, and they're going after animals that are falling in the water.
Hmm.
So they would react to sound, but when we first got there, they were up in the seagrass, and I'm literally crawling on my hands and knees trying to get up to them. But then they're in all this grass, so you really can't get the photo. So I backed back out and got back into the deeper water, and I just start doing hand slaps, on the top of the water, and you could see them. It would, pique their interest, wondering, what was that. So they swim over, and he finally swam right up to me, and that's how I got that open mouth shot. I had him literally, his nose was touching my dome port, and
Wow.
right as he bumped it, I did another splash, and he just opened up, and
Oh,
that's how I got that one.
I mean, he has an impressive set of teeth on him.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, realistically, how close were you?
Oh, literally. I mean, he was touching my camera. Yeah,
No
we're
way.
yeah, we were inches apart.
Wow. I suppose just also on I guess on a technical question. I mean, what sort of cameras, what sort of equipment do you use for your photography, underwater and overland?
I've got the same camera for both. I've got the Nikon 850. I started with the 800, but I just underwater. I love. I mean, well, just in general, I love the 850, but it's amazing for underwater photography. And
And you have a jacket on it, or does it
I've
is it
got it's just an underwater housing. It's made
okay?
by Bakelite, and it's just it's made specifically for that camera.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool. I might have to look into one of those underwater jackets for my own camera because yeah, I'm looking at yours now and I'm like, I need to get some of these shots.
Yeah.
And editing wise, I mean, do you use Photoshop or?
Yeah, I'm strictly, it's funny to say old school because, I still don't think of digital as, it still seems like a newish thing, but,
Yeah.
I guess I've been doing it for 20 years now, but yeah, I'm still pretty much just Photoshop. I've never used Lightroom. I guess I
Yeah.
just didn't see the point in it. I was happy with what I was getting in Photoshop, and I didn't really want to go learn a whole nother platform. And
Yeah. I get what you mean. And especially, I imagine, particularly in your craft of wildlife photography as well, you probably don't like editing. I don't like editing photos too much,
I think I'm one of the few that does.
Oh,
When I shoot, I am editing in my head as I shoot.
uh,
I've got, I know, what I want that to look like. A lot of times I already know if it's going to be black and white or if it's going to be color, or if I want, high contrast or low contrast, or yeah, it's just yeah, I can't, like, if I've got a shoot where I'm super excited about it, I can't wait to get back to camp and download and, create what I had in my head.
I mean, that's impressive for wildlife photography to have an idea of how you want to go in your head, like to already be planning it, like because I mean, it must be so like I suppose you have guides and stuff as well, but it also must be so random who and what animals you can meet at what time and how they'll be standing, their positions.
Yeah, it's all, of course, the time of day and the
Mm,
placement of the sun and shadows and clouds and
mm,
but yeah, I take my elements. When I'm shooting, I mean, no matter what it is, I'm not just looking at my subject. I'm looking at everything around. What else can I bring into the shot to make it, a great shot? Do I want to zoom in and make it a portrait, or do I want to go wide and see the trees and the clouds and the sun and the grass and everything to tell a story? Or it's yeah, I'm
mm.
constantly looking, and even when I'm not shooting and I don't have my camera with me, I'm still looking at things.
Yeah. I get that. I can do it, but I can do it like I get it with landscape photography a lot. But I suppose I live in the UK where it's exciting if you find a fox rummaging through your bins.
Yeah.
So I don't have the opportunity of wildlife. But I'd like to say I like in your photo, particularly in your underwater photograph, is your use of empty space, the way that the sea goes dark, and I really like that, particularly the one in the whale with the whale.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I suppose, yeah, also finally I mean, this is a big part of going into your guides is like you must have met some amazing people while you were traveling in Africa. Some of the tribes, I'm looking at your photos of the
Well,
people
just
you stayed
yeah,
with.
the tribes. It just and I was thinking about that. Like I've got a photo that I was gonna probably post tonight or tomorrow, and it's of one of the Maasai,
Hmm.
and he worked at one of the camps where we were, and they would walk us to our tents every night, to mainly to
Hmm.
protect you from lions.
Yeah. And the
But
Maasai, they're the people out of Kenya, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, they're Kenya, and they're in Tanzania too.
Okay.
And but yeah, they're just like if you read any of the books, like Out of Africa, or or there's one, I think it's called Circling the Sun, any of these that take place back in the early days of the of
African exploration.
what am I trying to say? Like with and the British are moving, I guess colonizing, or
Yeah, the British like the expanse of Africa into
yeah,
Africa, colonial
but
expanse into Africa. So people
you
Speak and stuff like that, the old explorers of the Nile, etc.
hmm yeah, they're to to read the books about that time period and the way they talk about the Maasai and interact with them, and there's this mystery and this mystique about them, and it's like I want to experience that. And the first time you encounter them and see them in their traditional clothing, and it's like seeing your favorite rock star, going to the grocery store, and there's Robert Plant, kind of thing. It's just
Yeah.
you're just going, there you are.
Yeah.
It was such a cool feeling, and the respect for them, for just their knowledge, and living on the land, and it's just another one of those things that just don't know how to describe it. You've got to experience it. But yeah, for me it was almost like meeting one of my favorite celebrities or something. It was but cooler.
Yeah, I mean, it really must be, especially for a wildlife photographer such as yourself, to experience these people who have such a connection with their ancestors and their nature and the land. Like your guide who knew where the lions would be twice. He knew that they were in the ravine, and he knew that'd be where they were going.
Hmm.
Probably, oh, sorry.
Well, it's like I telling you that I don't have any lion stories, but I just remember there was another. We were it was in Tanzania. Like I said, that we all of our guides were amazing, but this guy was just ridiculous. And the sun was setting, it's getting dark. We're heading back to camp, and we're driving down the road, and he slams on the brakes, and he's like, "There's a lion out there." And we're looking and looking and looking, could not see it. Finally, he points it out, and all you see were the ears of this female. Just, and I mean, literally, that was it. How he saw it, I have no idea. So we sat there and watched it for a minute. We were about, I don't know, 100 yards away. And then I guess we probably sat there for about 5 minutes. And he said, "Oh, she's going to mate." And we're like, "How in the hell did you know that?" So we drove up to, and as we're approaching, the male stands up. Never even saw him. And so the male stands up, and we stop. And he said, "Yeah, they're gonna mate in about 5." And sure enough, 5 minutes later, she roars at him to come over and take care of business. And but how he knew that, literally from just seeing the ears of this cat.
It is amazing, and I suppose it must be kind of from their thing of his ancestors of they shared the land as the top predator, so they had to. I mean, have you seen these videos of tribesmen? They chase lions off of their kill. They
Yeah.
they chase that after a lion has brought and killed their buffalo. These people they run at them, and then the lions turn around, they run away, they take what they can from the carcass, and they turn around and run and leg it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It must be, yeah, it's amazing the connection that these people have with their home. And so just going on to how he spotted it, just this is a really random question, but did I'm guessing none of these tribes people had glasses, right?
No, they've just got eagle eyes.
Yeah, so this is something I ran across when I was in the Caucasus and other quite wild places and Wadi Rum and stuff as well. They always say that our eyesight has to be strong and developed because we have to always look out for wolves, lions. We always have to look out for animals coming towards us. So people with bad eyesight don't necessarily survive.
Yeah, survival of the fittest.
Yeah, survival of the fittest. So they need that eyesight for their environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and it was funny too because it was, the next day we saw another female, kind of the same situation, and I
Mm.
asked him. I said, "Is she gonna mate?" He's like, "No, she's by herself." I'm
Yeah.
like, "How? How do you know that?"
It's yeah. I mean, they must just know them as they know how people act, isn't it? Probably more predictable than how people act.
Yeah, but yeah, they're just the twitch of an ear, and they can read it.
Yeah. God. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, going back, there is a language to them in a way, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think I've kept you for nearly an hour and a half now. So
No,
this is
yeah, we get going. I could talk
yeah.
about this stuff all night long.
Yeah, it was great. But what's your
We'll
next?
just have to do a second one.
Yeah, man. Anytime. What's your next adventures?
Well, I was supposed to have gone to I go to Camargue now every year in the spring for the horses there. All the I think I sent you one of those. The
Yeah, I
horses running
think you
through
did.
water.
Yeah, the is where? Sorry, where is this?
It's in southern France in the Camargue.
Over the Rhine. I see. Yeah, now I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, you fly into Marseille and it's like a hour and a half west of Marseille. And yeah, that was another one that I do. I go every year now. This is supposed to be my fourth or fifth time, and got canceled because of Corona.
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, the like I said, I don't have anything in the books, but
Yeah.
well, we were talking about Guadalupe for the Great Whites in October.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll still go, and
Mm.
if something, if
Yeah. I
things look
suppose.
up, I may try and do France,
Mm.
after summer.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah, I'm
suppose.
just kind of in a holding pattern, just
Yeah,
wait to
it
see
must
what's
be
gonna
hard for
happen.
you at the moment, not knowing
Yeah,
what the assignments and stuff would be.
yeah, it's difficult,
Mm.
and when I'm home, it's my normal day-to-day life really hasn't changed much for me.
Mm.
The biggest change is not being able to travel, and so at first it wasn't that big of a deal, but now I'm starting to go a little stir crazy because
Yeah,
I'm
I get what
not
you.
used to being home this long.
Yeah, same.
So
I'm usually doing some sort of traveling, but I think this is the longest I've been in the UK in about 3 or 4 years now. So
yeah,
it's getting cabin feverish. But hopefully, I can only speak. I mean, hopefully I speak for the US as well. But hopefully it will be getting a bit better now. But I mean, I don't know about the situation in the US, but at the moment when this is recorded, people are still going. Like in the UK, I was at Brighton Beach where I live, and there were just groups of like 10, 20 people out on the beach. So I'm worried there might be another peak again.
oh yeah, there's it's just as bad, if not worse here.
Yeah.
There people are tired of it, and if you don't experience it firsthand or see it firsthand or have know somebody that has had it or died from it, it's like, well, it's not going to get me. That's
Yeah.
the attitude, and I hope I'm wrong, but it's a perfect recipe for round two. But
Exactly. And it's also this idea of that, like, like amongst a lot of younger people, is that, oh, I'm young, it won't affect me. It's like, no, that's
uh,
not the case. It's a contagious disease which can spread to your older loved ones.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and yeah, whether you get show any symptoms or not,
Yeah.
you can pick it up and not know it, and then pass it along to somebody else. But
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there you go. I mean, this is why we're in that position now.
mhm.
I actually think I might have been exposed to it when I was traveling earlier in January. When I was just traveling in January, I remember the 4 or 5 days where I had a really bad flu. I couldn't breathe
Mhm.
quite well, and I was being sick. So I might have already been exposed to it. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not taking the risk.
Yeah, no, I've got a friend of mine that he had the same thing
Mm.
and had all the symptoms, and this was in January
Yeah.
before we knew what it was, and I was around him, plenty of times, enough to have caught it myself if I was
Mm.
going to. So yeah, I'd be curious to see if
Yeah.
I've got the antibodies because
Yeah.
I think I've been exposed to it, but
I think it must be so hard not to have been exposed to it. Like at the, I mean,
yeah,
the US is the figures just keep rising and rising now. I think at the UK, I mean, they don't seem to be releasing them in the UK anymore, but it seems to have slowed for the moment. But
yeah,
yeah,
and I don't know what numbers to believe anymore. So I'm erring on the side of caution, and
yeah, I think that's smart because I mean there are also rumors that China sort of didn't give the right statistics out as well. So then I mean if they underestimate their statistics, it could be more contagious than people think.
yeah,
So
exactly.
we'll have to see. We'll have to
Yeah,
see, and hopefully it'll work out for you. Hopefully you'll get to go to France, and hopefully you'll be back out on assignment soon.
yeah. Hopefully, fingers are crossed.
Yeah.
So
Oh, all right. Well, Rodney, thank you so much. Where can we find your photos on Instagram? This is your promotion. This is your promotion time.
yeah, I guess where I pay the most attention because of ease is Instagram. It's just my name, just Rodney Bursiel, Bursiel, and of course I do Facebook and I've got a website, but Instagram's kind of the first place I go. That's where I can keep my most current stuff. So,
Yeah, big one. And also, just a question for me: where can I get a print? Because I want that picture of that humpback whale above my bed.
yeah, yeah. There, I've got stuff set up on my website, And if there's, if you go on there and if there's something you see on Instagram that I don't have on my website yet, you can just, send me a message going, you can look at the sizes and pricing on another photo and just say, I want this size, but I want this photo. And, so if it's not on my website, doesn't mean it can't be printed. So.
All right, cool. I'm gonna look into that, and I think everybody else should too. Yeah.
Right on. Well, yeah, appreciate it.
Well, no, thank you so much for coming on. And so for all those listeners, if they want to find the photos that we talk about, they'll be on Rodney's Instagram, and they'll also be on my Instagram for a page linking to Rodney's page as well. Please follow the page on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking.
Right, enjoyed it. And stop recording.